Daredevil #1, written by Saladin Ahmed, art by Aaron Kuder, colors by Jesus Erbatov, letters by VC's Clayton Coles. And this is obviously the first issue of Saladin Ahmed's run, coming off of what was at one point really, hyped up Chip Zdarsky Daredevil run. Me personally, after Devil's Reign and then getting to that new #1, it did kind of lose a little of the luster for me. I agree. It wasn't that type of deal. I still read it, but it wasn't the first book I read. At one point, it was the first book that I would read each time it came.
Yeah, at one point you were married to it, I think.
Oh, yeah, that and also the Invaders book back in the day. I became a big Chip Zdarsky fan, and you bringing it up is kind of funny because I was going to mention with this new #1 by Saladin Ahmed, when we first started the Marvel podcast, we did it with the fresh start, as Eric would whisper often, but we ended up where the Daredevil run, I wasn't that into it for a couple issues. It took me about a trade to actually really start to love it. And I did end up loving it, but it did get a little, it wasn't exactly hitting me right away, being one of my first, or if the first, Daredevil run that I was reading as the books came out. So I am willing to give this Saladin Ahmed run that benefit, at least, give it the benefit that I gave Chip Zdarsky's. And I think that most people should as well, though I see a lot of people kind of against this right away. Maybe because they don't like Saladin Ahmed. Maybe it's because he's not Chip Zdarsky. I don't know. Yeah. But this first issue kind of surprised me because I thought we were going to end up, okay, we're going to go a whole trade where Matt's going to be a priest and he's not going to be Daredevil. We get to that pretty quick. And I'll give props for that. But when we go through this, it actually threw me off a bit because there's some unanswered questions, I think, in this. And are we going to find out? And so when we jump in, you end up where Matt is in the back of a cab. He ends up where the cab driver, he wants to get out and do his midday prayers. And Matt says, fine, you could do that. It's kind of a way to ease you in, but then have that Matt as the priest kind of page there. It's not a shocker.
It's a big reveal. He's in the backseat of the cab. Yeah.
The art's really good. I do like the art. It's a lot different from what we had, but Aaron Kuder is a good artist. He ends up going to St. Nicholas's youth home. And this is where we find out that what he is doing is helping run this home for wayward kids. These kids, they don't necessarily look that bad, though. Like, what were they involved with? These look like just little kids that come out. One of the kids, maybe it's because people were calling him Giraffe. Maybe they were calling him Bobblehead, but you end up having these huge-headed kids. But Matt goes in, you end up having him work with this other priest, Father Javi. What threw me off, though, too, and this is where I'll get into the point where Father Javi opens the door when Matt goes to it and says, oh, Father Matthew, you stand judged for missing dinner. I thought that was a really bad dad joke kind of deal. I don't know the type of jokes that priests tell like that. Maybe that's just priest humor, and I'm not getting it. But when you think of all this and what we got at the end of Chip Zdarsky's run, where he did come back, he is a priest, but we don't know anything about that. And Elektra did end up going and talking to him and deciding, listen, I'm going to let him have his good life. She ends up reiterating it in this one, but kind of acts like she didn't talk to him, but that's fine. But who does Matt think he is at this point? Is he Matt Murdock, guy who died, came back, and like the idea where he is involved in a system, he's involved in the church. He ends up saying that he butted heads with some of the church heads to get these kids in this place that's being funded by a mysterious benefactor that we all know was Elektra. But the idea, does he have an ID? Does he end up having a new life when he got kind of resurrected or brought back and born again, quote unquote? Does he think he's some other? Because if you come back and you're Matt Murdock, you do have a history that is pretty out there that you could go and look up. So what does he think is going on? Not at no time do you have Judge Javi say, hey, or Judge Javi, Father Javi say, hey, Matt, do you remember anything more? Like he has amnesia or he's a different last name or something like that. So it threw me off.
Yeah, he doesn't have amnesia. He's not in a witness protection program. He hasn't paid a guy for a bunch of fake documents. There must be something going on that we don't know about.
And he must be getting paid something. Like there has to be somewhere where he had to have shown ID. I don't think the church is just going to let him have this, home for wayward kids and just let things.
No way. Just some transient off the street working with kids? No way.
He's a new priest.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just, now, if you ended up having a thing that's played out, maybe we'll get it later down the line. But I don't know, because at the end he starts remembering who he is. What does he think happened when he didn't know that? It's very weird, and it's not really touched on at all. So I want to see what's going on. But you have some scenes and you end up where, and again, Saladin Ahmed is going to put the pedal to the metal. I think that maybe editorial might have said to him, listen, we don't want to waste time. People want Matt as Daredevil. We can't have him go through this, because right away we see that he ends up training the other kids. These kids, they spar. They mention that. And then you get this piece of crap guy, Rizzy, who comes and starts yelling for this girl, Ashley, who may or may not have been a prostitute.
Yeah, he's a wannabe pimp, this guy. Yeah, he calls her a trick.
Yeah. And he's like, get out here. And you end up where Matt, hey, I don't know if you're going to be red, you pimp. And pimp, I'm no pimp. And these guys, they look sus. They try to attack Matt, and he goes into Daredevil mode. He ends up beating the crap out of these guys. And that's the thing, too. These are younger guys, but they're not really good guys. And he does end up breaking bones. And he says to himself that he kind of ends up liking it. And that kind of throws him off. This doesn't seem like God's work, but it is. So you're going through this whole deal that, boom, it's like a Jason Bourne type.
He beats the crap out of these guys right in front of the place, in front of the kids, in front of the priest.
Yeah, and they're all cheering. I told you, he kicks ass, this guy. It's so funny, and he's kind of thrown, kind of by that, but not really. And in this, too, there's a weird play. I told you, I didn't know if I was going to bring it up, but there are multiple times where Matt and this father, Javi, end up cursing. And it's not something that I'm that much of a prude, but I don't really, it felt off.
It stands out.
Matt. Yeah, it does. Out. And it's like a bunch of times. And I thought, that's weird. And it's not, damn, things like that. It's fine, for the most part, but it did kind of throw me off. It did end up being something that I realized, I don't remember Matt really talking like this at one point.
Even little girls going, damn, look at them run. Like, she's cursing.
And maybe the play, again, it's a number one issue, and maybe this is something that's setting up another. It's weird, though. Some of the things felt off, but overall, I didn't mind it. And I was glad that I liked it enough to go forward. I don't think it's the greatest issue, but I still liked it enough that I'm going to continue reading. Because as this is going on, Elektra's watching, and she's there to pretty much give us the recap narration of what Matt has been through if you hadn't been reading the Chip Zdarsky run. And like I said, at a point, she almost feels like she's saying that I never talked to him at all. I'm just watching from the shadows. But she did go and talk to him. She did at the end of Zdarsky's issue. But that's fine. She's the one, surprise, surprise, that is funding this whole thing because they don't have much money, but she gives a check every month to pay for this, House for Wayward Kids. She ends up, while she's watching on the rooftops, suddenly you get this like demonic vision, like a ghost behind her. And this is where things start to pick up and are really cool. I still don't get fully what is going on, because what ends up happening, it looks like the ghost or demon Sloth comes to possess Elektra to get Matt. But Sloth is somebody who is the idea of being lazy, says it a lot. And I like when he's just lounging around while he's possessing her. That's pretty good. And keeps like, oh, Matt, go take a nap or something. But the weird play is him coming here is what really then does, supercharge Matt remembering he's Daredevil. And it's a weird play of who would have sent him, what's involved with that. And you would think right away, oh, this has to be like the devil.
Mephisto, I think.
Yeah. But why? And if it's Mephisto, then it would make but just say just God, devil. We'll just go with that. Like the devil would probably not want Matt to be back. And if it's a bad guy, why do you want Daredevil back on the table here? But maybe it is the idea that God brought Matt back and Matt isn't doing exactly what he's supposed to be doing, being Daredevil. It's a weird play. I'm interested in what it would be. But boy, when Aaron Kuder gets this and you end up having Elektra possessed, it's awesome. It is so cool. I rarely say that like art itself is worth the price of admission. But when you see how you end up having Elektra possessed by this sloth demon, it is the greatest thing in this. It's really cool because she ends up then going and pretty much she shows up as Elektra in Matt's room. Matt says at night he starts to remember some things. He has dreams. But she shows up, looks like maybe the demon sloth wants to get a little sexy at one point.
Yeah, she's like perched up on that dresser looking down on him.
And Matt's trying to think of who this is. He says he ends up where he knows it's a demon, but it doesn't smell like brimstone. It smells of lost love. Again, kind of going against that they already talked in the last thing, but we have to get past that. And then she tries to kill him, and he jumps away. And I really do like the art, but when you see that first deal where it's the demon who's possessing behind Elektra, it's great. Awesome. And he even sees this. And she's like, oh, man. And that's why you get, because it's Sloth, you get that, relax. Hey, take a breather. Look at those
nails he's got, man.
Oh, it's just disgusting. And the feet, look at the feet. It's Edward Scissor Toes. You end up where they're like, okay, and Matt's trying to react to this. And then when you end up seeing this demon use Elektra like a puppet, it's really well done. It's really, I've never seen it like this. And at first it threw me off where it's the demon over top Elektra, but his beard is covering Elektra's, chest and head and all that. And it looks really, really neat. You really get the idea of that possession. And they're fighting at a bit with this demon, really trying to get him to, hey, just relax and I'm going to kill you and things like that. But when he does end up going eventually, it seems like this is the start of something bigger, a start of a plan. But Father Javi ends up coming in and Matt's laying on the ground. Oh, are you okay? And this is where now Matt has started to remember even more. You end up getting some really cool visuals where he sees Daredevil and should I be this? And there's that whole play of what he should be. And then he does go out then as almost like year one Daredevil. It actually reminds me of the Ultimate Universe Matt when he was younger. And he ended up going out and jumping around with that mask and things. And he says that I kind of let my body take me to Elektra's apartment. I kind of, I don't remember myself, but my body does, goes in. And he's just going to end up fighting this demon. It's an exorcism. You play it out like that. And he is able to do it. And that's where he says, and he starts to go with this of, forgive me, God, I've been lazy. I've been slothful. I'm not going to be any more. And so that's where it seems like he gets the whole exorcism, right? I mean, it's pretty cool, though. I thought that it was really neat the way that they did it, and it's tying into some religious stuff with that. But it is that idea of I should have been back doing some Daredevil stuff, and I haven't. But that's the big question for me. Which side is trying to get him back to be Daredevil? Because a lot of times you do end up having a God, a man of God who's actually doing the devil's, that sort of thing. I think it's interesting. And when you end up having Elektra come out of the, the possession, it's really cool. I can't stress enough how cool this whole possession really was. Yeah,
you got to see it to know what we're talking about. I mean, it's worth buying and looking at.
And and that's where if you see them, when Sloth kind of ends up where Elektra comes out, Sloth is laying around saying, oh man, holy crap.
He's so lazy.
And he's like, you actually got off your ass and did it. You're the tough one, Matty boy, but also I'm lazy. He's in the OG Daredevil outfit at that point. It's such a crazy play there of, hey, what's going on? I think it's a good mystery that's set up here. And yeah, you end up where now you have Matt remember. And he says, I know, Elektra, I'm starting to remember things. I'm starting to get involved. And she ends up saying, well, okay. And it's like the idea, all right, now that you remember, let's go. Let's go. We're going to do your Daredevil stuff. And he's like, no, I'm not going to leave, my deal. I'm still going to be at the house. I'm still going to be at St. Nick's orphanage deal or, Wayward Kids foster home. I can't just leave them. And then she says, well, I'll keep paying for it and all that. And so you wonder how this is going to play out. And then we just pretty much get to the end where he is doing his things. He's doing the things with the kids. He says, oh, it's a miracle. They slept in late. They didn't argue. But the big play is he's going to have to be Daredevil. And he realizes he's going to have to be. And he even dresses up as the police show up, yelling for Father Matthew. Again, who do they think he is? What's going on? And why are the police there? Are they there because of something people have seen or whatnot, or even from before? I don't know. But it's kind of a cool deal. And
it was a weird cliffhanger that it should have ended with him putting the costume back on.
Yeah,
but
that would have been perfect. Yeah, that would have been perfect. You have him there. It's like, it's really cool. He ends up coming out of like a closet with the Daredevil outfit on, ready to go. And then I thought it was over. And then you see where it's almost as when he puts the outfit on, the costume on, suddenly his senses really kick in.
They kick in, yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. to hear the police coming and yelling, Father Matthew, open up. This is the police. What? What's going on? Now, again, is it going to be as simple as Riz went to the police? I got beat up. He broke my arm. I mean, that is something. You can't really just, do that.
Could be that guy.
We could just play that. Something, again, if you want to go with that Ultimate deal, something that kind of happened to Elektra in that Ultimate, Daredevil and Elektra book too. So it might be that those guys went to the hospital, or they just want to question them about it or whatnot. Or you might find out that Riz ended up going off and now he's dead and they got in the fight. We'll see. We'll see what it is. But I liked it enough.
Me too.
I thought it was good. I love that possession deal, and it's good enough for me to keep going forward because I was kind of worried. But I'm going to go for it because I do like what it sets up. I just want a little more info. What would you give it?
For a first issue, I'd give it an 8.5.
I'm going to be an 8.
Really enjoyed
so
it.
you're a little more than me, but I do like the art. I'm a solid 8. You're not wasting your time getting Daredevil back fully, so I'm in.
You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.